If you are in a losing streak and you're starting to wonder if you were the problem, that's exactly where I was at loss 10 out of 15. I didn't quit, but I came close to something much worse. I almost stopped believing the next setup was worth taking. And what pulled me out wasn't discipline, it wasn't mindset, it was a specific protocol I built for that exact moment. And just so you know, I'm not lying, I documented the whole thing on my trading journal. So from August 20, 2024, all the way up until October 3rd, 2024, I lost 14 to 15 trades in a row. And my first 5 losses felt completely normal. So I was taking the right trades, meaning that the trades aligned with my bias, I was using the right risk, I was waiting for the appropriate entry. They just so happened to be losses. And at this point, it didn't really surprise me. I already backtested, so I've seen my strategy lose 5 to 8 trades in a row. But what I didn't expect was how the trade would influence how I thought about the next trade, way before I even took it. And once I took loss 6, then 7, I started doing something that I didn't even notice at the time. Doubt started coming into play. I started questioning whether or not these trades were worth taking. All of my same criteria were met, but subconsciously, I was just finding ways to mentally justify not taking the trade. By loss 10, I started calling the outcome of the trade way before I even entered. So mentally, I just wanted to be right on something. Predicting failure was the best bet that I had. And from here, the only thought in my head was, why take a trade when it's just going to be a loss? And now there was a shift. I started taking trades without confirmation. It's not because the plan stopped working. It's not because something in the markets all of a sudden changed. It's because under all that pressure of consecutive losses, I started to feel as though the plan wasn't safe. It's like Stephen Curry missing 5 3-pointers in a row. Just because that happened, does that mean that he should abandon the plan? Not necessarily, because if he does, it's simply based on evidence that the past attempts were not working. Your brain doesn't abandon your strategy because the strategy is wrong. It abandons it because there's no evidence that it's working. So that's not a discipline problem. It's a data problem. But understanding why all of this happened isn't enough. I needed to know if the strategy stopped working or if I was the variable. And the only way to do that is to go back to the data. So here's what I did. I went to a simulator and I typed in my win percentage, which at the time was around 40%. And I went ahead and calculated what is the most amount of trades I could possibly lose. And just right here, max consecutive losses, 16. So now, looking back on my backtesting and seeing that I only lost 8 trades in a row, when I actually took a sample size of thousands, I saw that the max losses could be closer to 14, 15, 16. So I now knew that my losing streak was actually within the realm of what was already possible. It's not that my strategy was wrong. It's just that I didn't know I could lose this many times in a row. So towards the tail end, when I started to take trades that didn't meet my exact setup and entry criteria, what was actually broken was my execution. So every single breakdown I had was already in the data, which means that I didn't have to fix the strategy per se. I had to fix a system for what I do after I take that many losses. You need actual evidence for the rules that you set in place. Not some random rules that you read on the internet, but rules that come directly from your data that show when you start to break down in execution. When you're in the middle of a drawdown, it's better to not need discipline than expecting yourself to have more of it. It's like a pilot who's in the middle of an emergency. It's not that they should all of a sudden think super clearly, but rather they already have a list of the things that they need to do in the event of something happening. The first thing that you have to put in place is a daily loss limit. So if you stop yourself from taking more than 2 to 3 losses in a row and you kick yourself out manually, like get off your chair and do something else, then that is how you prevent yourself from getting into the mindset of needing to take one more trade just to make back everything else. The second thing that I implemented was an account loss circuit breaker. It means that if I take more than 7 losses in a row, I am going to stop trading and reevaluate not my strategy, but actually my mental. And if you want to go even one step deeper, me recognizing that doubt kick in after loss 7 means that subconsciously, I was already having those feelings after perhaps 4 losses in a row. So by implementing the circuit breaker sooner, you catch the snowball before it has time to actually get bigger. And the third thing I implemented was an account equity threshold. This is a specific drawdown level in your account equity where you automatically kick yourself out for at least a week. So At the time, I was trading my personal accounts, and I found out that seeing a 30% drawdown really, really sucks. So for me, my account equity threshold is minus 30%. And this account equity threshold is actually based on rules. So for me, I was risking about 2% per trade. So if I lost 15 trades in a row, which is around the statistical tail end of a losing streak or the max absolute worst losing streak, then 2 times 15 is how I got 30. So that's how you can kind of calculate maybe your own account equity threshold. And the key thing is, if I hit this account equity threshold, once I take a break, I actually do something strategically that maybe a lot of you guys wouldn't really have guessed. But I actually refund however much I lost. And I know what you guys might be thinking. Why would you put in more money when you just went on a losing streak? But for me, it's not about recouping your losses. That's already gone. That's already, in the markets of some other person's hands. What it's truly about is giving yourself a mental refresh. And starting again from zero has tremendous value in what it does to your psyche as a trader. So if I initially had a $10,000 account and I went through a 30% drawdown, I would now have an account equity of $7,000. Mentally in my head, every single time I take a trade, I'm always thinking to myself, how can I get back towards $10,000? And I know a lot of you have been in that state, but when you're trying to make back what you lost, 7,000 doesn't turn into 10,000. It turns into 5,000 and then 4,000. Instead, if we hit 7,000 and we just refund it back to 10,000, then mentally we give ourselves that refresh. So instead of thinking to ourselves, how can we get back to 10,000? We're thinking to ourselves, how can we just trade properly so that we can grow this account equity to however much it needs to be grown to? Some of you might have actually experienced this firsthand if you trade prop firms, where when you lose your first evaluation, and you start thinking about payouts to recoup the losses, all of a sudden, you start taking more losses. You start acting really irrationally. You buy more funded accounts than you should. And ultimately, you just end up accumulating this huge loss. Versus if you only took 3 losses or you blew 3 evals in Prop A, and then you decide to switch over to Prop B, at least for me, mentally, I was able to reset. And then I'm able to start taking payouts. It's a lot better to give yourself that mental reset than to be in that state of mind of having to make back everything. So all in all, switching prop firms or refunding your personal account isn't a financial decision, it's a psychological decision. But just before I actually reload the account with more funds, you need re-entry criteria. So for my re-entry criteria, the most important thing is making sure that your mental is on check. So if you show up pre-market and you're thinking about how much you should be losing, walk away. Don't even bother going back to the charts and trying to make back what you lost. And when I say strict, I mean really strict. So even if there's a single thought that comes into my head, I just don't trade. I show up the next day. And the reason why this works is because when you wait, over time, your brain is developing evidence that you not showing up to the charts means that you'll still be okay. Because those thoughts of wanting to make back what you lost is because subconsciously in your head, you think to yourself that things aren't going to be okay. So giving yourself another day to show up tomorrow or show up the next week just means that your brain has enough evidence that you'll be fine. The next thing that I make sure I do is that I exercise consistently. So even if mentally I feel okay, if I was skipping out on exercising the week prior, what does that mean about my discipline? It obviously is going to transfer over into the charts. And alongside this, exercise quite scientifically helps you manage stress better. And number 3, you want to make sure that you actually have capital to freely invest. If you ended up blowing up your whole entire trading account, it's not good to just refund it with your emergency fund or your rent money. You want to make sure that those things are covered first, maybe accumulate some cash on the side, and when you're able to, and you can freely invest, and you'll know that because number 1, your mental is going to be well. Like how can you show up mentally if you're risking your rent money? It just doesn't make any sense. So once these 3 are met, then that's when I refund my account and start back from zero. And the key distinction for all of this is that it's not time-based. You're not telling yourself, I'm going to show up by next week. That's not how it works. These are based on conditions. So when these 3 are met, then that's when you show up to the market. And for this 5th rule, we're going to go back to our feels broken, is broken chart. But when you look back on your losses, so for example, if you took 4 losses in a row, you really want to be strict with how you are assessing those trades. So if each one of those losses met your setup criteria, they met your entry criteria, you entered the trade with appropriate risk, then so long as all of those are met, there's no reason to really stop trading. However, if your execution is horrible, so what does bad execution look like? It means you're holding on to a trade longer than you're supposed to because you want to make more money, or it could be holding on to a loser longer because you don't want to admit actually realizing your losses, or it could just be taking more trades than you said that you would for the day. Essentially, are you breaking the plan and the rules that you already had set in place? If you are, and your execution is bad, then that's how you know that you have to step away. I don't care if you only lost 3 trades in a row. As soon as your execution goes down, you get out. And over the long term, you want to be the trader who maybe lost 6 trades in a row, but each one of these trades were good losses, rather than the person who took only 3 trades or who lost 3 trades in a row and now they're starting to tilt. So by now, you should have some form of diagram of what you do if you're feeling bad after taking losses. First things first, assess. Is your execution good? If your execution is bad, I don't care if you only lost 1 trade in a row, step aside, get out, take 1 or 2 days off. If your execution is good, then you ask yourself, is this number of losses within my max number of losses based on large sample sizes of data? So for me, if I was at loss 7 and I saw that my strategy can lose 15 trades in a row, but my execution is still good, then I'm going to go on to the next side of the charts. So if my execution was good and it's within the max number of losses, then yes, keep on trading. However, if I'm at loss 16 or 17 out of a max number of 15, it's probably best to stop, because now you'll feel like the plan just isn't working anymore subconsciously. And I wasn't supposed to dive into this, but I'm keeping this here as like a little bonus. Let's say that you lost 16 trades and statistically you only are supposed to lose maybe 12. At this point, you need to stop trading and you need some form of education. So what I did is I went through AI, literally just ChatGPT, typed in my whole strategy, how it works, why I think it works, and then I just asked it, what are the reasons and what are the things that I should look out for in the market conditions where this strategy might not be working well. I'm not going to dive into the actual specific technicals, but you can use what AI gives you and conceptually think about it and then start to backtest that. Another thing you can do is look through all of your losses. So you try to look for the common denominator of why those losses happened. So if it was a specific technical condition that was met, then you want to take out that technical condition, see how it worked, and then apply it to your wins, and then move forward. Another thing that you can do is external education. Maybe you find out that taking this many losses in a row just doesn't suit your personality. So you'd have to change your strategy, look for something that maybe has higher win rate, lower risk to reward. And you do that by finding some form of external education to refine your strategy. It doesn't have to be a completely different strategy, but maybe just adjust different parameters. And with that being said, having the protocol is one thing, but following it in real time when your brain is trying to convince you that this time is different, that's when things tend to fall apart. So I want to show you what it actually looks like when it's running in real time. In May of 2026, I lost 3 trades in a row. First thing that I did, I looked at each one of these and asked myself, is my execution good? And at the time, yeah, all of it was pretty much meeting my criteria. So I continued taking another trade. After loss 4, so way before 7, I started to experience those same doubts. And once I didn't continue trading. I implemented a break and I took 2 days off. And once I did that and I returned next week, mentally, I was refreshed. So rather than taking those losses and continuing to compound my account in the negative direction, I instead was able to take good trades. And after that, I won 20 trades in a row. No, I'm just kidding. I won a couple, maybe I lost a few. The outcome doesn't really matter. The point is, mentally, I didn't carry that snowball and continue risking financial and mental capital on trades that didn't have good expectancy. The difficult thing is that in the moment, you're not going to want to step away from the charts. You're just going to want to continue trading because obviously you want to make back your losses. You'll know that your drawdown protocol works, not when your losing streak ends. It works when you have evidence that you're able to continue showing up with a good degree of mental capital and you're able to execute your plan. And if you're able to execute your plan, you'll always be able to show up tomorrow. Going on a 15 trade losing streak didn't break me. I mean, after all, I'm here almost 2 years later, still trading, but it exposed a hole in my trading system. And I had to have gone through the experience in order to have discovered that hole, which was I didn't have a system for what I do after I took a loss. I had a strategy for trades, but I didn't have a protocol for what I would do in between them. And that's the thing worth building. And if you're in a losing streak right now, or you're break even or inconsistent, and you're frustrated because you're so close to figuring it all out, but there's 1 or 2 things preventing you from making it, I'm offering a trading analysis where I get to know your systems, your strategies, your rules, and then I give you personalized advice on how to get one step closer to profitability. In one of my most recent calls with a trader who was struggling with psychology issues, I was able to give him one simple fix that he was able to implement immediately that solved his overtrading problems. I mean, worst case, you gain confirmation from me, letting you know that you're on the right path. But best case, within 45 minutes, you can acquire that single piece of advice that could save you years of trial and error so you don't waste time staying stuck in the same spot. And because you'll be working with me individually, I only offer 2 slots per week, so once they're gone, you'll have to wait until more open up. This offer is completely free, so click the link in the description to reserve your spot before they're all booked out.